What an amazing conference eve it is. This is wonderful. I want to first introduce myself. My name is David Wilson. I'm the Dean of the Goldman School of Public Policy and a professor of public policy and political science. Thank you. Yes, thank you. One of the things that's most important about this occasion is that it gives us a little bit of a time to come together and celebrate one another. And it's always great when you have a really good playlist. So I don't know who the DJ is, but let's give it up for the DJ and the music outside. Really nice job. I was amped. I heard it down the street, and I'm like, who's having a party? Apparently it's the Goldman School having a party. So I'm thrilled to see everyone here. This is really not about the size of our audience. This is great to see you all here, but it's really about our understanding that a commitment to making a better world really does take more than one person. This isn't a solo project. It requires community. And our identity and our presence and our belief that we can and should give back to our school, our campus, and one another. The gathering that we call the annual conference and alumni gathering is designed to do several things: foster social connections and reduce isolation. You're out and among one another. Build social capital, give you an opportunity to come together and invest in one another so that you have more to share with one another. Promote local pride and shared identity. Stimulate intellectual growth, and if you're so inclined, maybe economic growth as well. Provide a platform for engagement in important issues. And of course, hear from some of our best and brightest faculty, alumni, students, and friends of our university. Tonight on through Saturday evening, and maybe for some of you Sunday morning, the hope is that GSPP can create spaces for shared experiences, new relationships, academic and cultural exchange, and a deeper sense of belonging, ultimately strengthening our community's fabric. We are a community that believes in speaking truth to power and also ensuring that when we're speaking, that our voice, our words, our actions have the quality necessary to make change. We owe a great deal of thanks to a number of people, our generous sponsors, the Sipsky Foundation, Anthropic, the Elizabeth Hutto Gordon Estate, and the Goldman Family Fund for their support in making this conference possible. Please give them a thank you. I also want to thank our board members and our donors who have made GSPP what it is today, and you'll see them walking around with a nice ribbon. When you do, please thank them for their support. And lastly, I'd like to thank our GSPP staff and faculty and friends who spent countless hours, volunteer hours of service in support of our committee. Annie Campbell-Washington, Jean Ching, Ryan Rose, Hillary Hoyens, Bora Reed, Erica Weisinger, Cecile Kabakungan, Rosa Terrazas, Sarandi De Leon, and Elizabeth Mark, the incomparable Elizabeth Mark. Please thank them for all of their hard work. Everything that you will experience this evening and throughout the weekend is because they've taken the time to care about the Goldman School. They make me and they make all of us GSPP proud. And tonight, before we get started, also I have one housekeeping note. Please silence your cell phones. Just write that down. And also, you'll have cards passed around while we're in conversation. And if something strikes you in the evening, write it down and we'll try and make it public when we're talking on the stage. All right, and so now I'm pleased to welcome our guest, our featured speaker, our person that's going to help us kick this off, our most prominent alumni, Khadija Shahper Bakhtiar. She's a class of 2010 MPP graduate. I understand it's a 15-year anniversary. Shall we do some kind of thing? Sure. Khadija is founder and chief executive officer of Teach for Pakistan, which recruits Pakistan's most talented graduates to teach 2 years in underserved communities. They go on to lead long-term change in the country's education system. Teach for Pakistan has deployed 600 leaders who have taught more than 30,000 students in high-need public schools and impacted the entire educational spectrum in the country. That's amazing. That's really amazing. Khadija has catalyzed a shift in the national conversation around education, moving the focus from access to quality and inspiring government to invest more in teacher leadership models. Her work has influenced policy changes at both the federal and provincial levels, impacting teacher recruitment and training nationwide. You're building a better future. Khadija previously led Teach for All's teacher and alumni leadership work with partners across the Middle East, South Asia, and Africa. She has served on various boards and advisory platforms, including Punjab Education Commission and the National Education Foundation, and Teach for All's Global Institute for Shaping a Better Future in Lausanne. She's a Fulbright scholar with her MPP from the Goldman School. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Honors in Social Sciences from Lahore University of Management and Sciences, LUMS, as we know it. She is also a recipient of LUMS' Vice Chancellor's 2019 Alumni Achievement Award. We wanted to give them an opportunity to celebrate you first. And last year, she received the 2024 Elise and Walter A. Haas International Award in recognition of your visionary leadership in education. That's wonderful. On behalf of all of our students, our faculty, our staff, our advisors, our alumni, and our friends, I'm thrilled to welcome you back to the Goldman School. Everyone, please give Khadija a round of applause. This thing on? Wow. This is, really impressive. You've been back to Berkeley since you graduated, but for those who haven't met you and probably want to know more about why you're so impressive, tell us how you got from being interested in kind of what I hear is medicine to public policy.
Wow, you did some deep research.
I did some deep research. I told her the internet's undefeated. You will always find people's business on the internet. Found yours.
Even I didn't remember that. So, well,
That you were interested in medicine?
yeah.
Okay, there you go.
So first of all, let me just thank you for this incredible introduction. I really appreciate it, and to the entire GSPP team for the opportunity to come back home. It feels very, very special, and to do it at our at the 15th reunion for our class is exceptionally special. So thank you very much for making this happen. And so to answer your question, I think, yeah, up until my high school, I thought I wanted to go into medicine. And I think the one part of that has stayed with me is the kind of underlying motivation for why medicine. And to me, as I've now come to understand it through a lot of reflection and work over the years, is that the core thing about medicine that attracted me was its ability to heal people, right? And so to be in the business of healing, and not really the business, but to be in work that is healing is something that I think really drew me to it for a long time. But along the way, through my undergrad, I think I thought a lot about women and children, and these are communities in Pakistan, group populations in Pakistan that don't have as much power and voice and access to opportunity and protections as they should. And so I thought I was going to pursue a career in more around the ideas of gender. And I think over the years, coming to GSPP particularly, it really gave some concreteness to the ideas that I cared about, caring about many things, wanting to drive change, caring about women's issues and children's issues. I think coming to GSPP, meeting with people in my class who had done the Teach for America program, having the opportunity to meet with professors who helped broaden my ideas of how change can be made possible through movements like Teach for America, I think that really sparked something. And that the core of that to me was, I come from a country where we have 65% of our population is under the age of 30. And when I stumbled upon this idea of, getting young people mobilized, energized, and empowered to change the future destiny of their own country, there was no looking back, because I know that if Pakistan has a shot at becoming the kind of country that all Pakistanis deserve to live in, then its young people are going to have to be empowered to drive that change, right? And so that, I think, is what really kind of grabbed me, and that's why I've spent the last many years pursuing that idea.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. That's a really big idea for one person to take on. And so I'm curious about what gives you hope. Like what is it that, of course, people are going to push against this and they're going to say who deserves to get what, when, and how, and why. And you had a vision and a dream, and you're committed to, you've committed to coming to the US to learn and get educated and develop a toolkit and then make change that can heal in a way that it's very difficult. It's institutional, it's individual, it's programmatic, it's financial. What gives you hope that it's worth it?
Yeah. I think there are two big sources of hope for me. One is, and both of it is honestly about seeing how people change and evolve. And I think two lessons that I've learned over my work with Teach for Pakistan. One is that it takes people to change people, and the other one is that it takes people to change systems. And I feel like that's as simple of a lesson that took me a long time to learn. And so the first level of incredible hope for me is when I see how quickly and how holistically our children can grow. So, where we work in Pakistan and the kinds of populations that we are serving, our kids are 4 or 5 years behind grade level when our teachers meet them. They are coming into their schools with every kind of challenge that one can imagine, whether that's being insecure in their housing or in their nutrition. They don't have a lot of access to books, literacy, language, technology around them. Very few role models for what success can look like for their own lives, and these are all the kind of challenges that they bring into their schools with them. And that's why you see in their learning outcomes that they're very far behind. And in 2 years, those same kids, I've seen them make not 2, but 4, 6, 8 years worth of progress, right? With a caring adult who goes all out, who pulls out every stop, because they're so fully consumed by this mission, to help these kids get to their full potential. And so I think watching that story happen again and again and again, I think for the last many years, is so incredibly gratifying. And last year, a dramatic thing happened. We got our very first Teach for Pakistan teacher, who 10 years ago was a student in one of our classrooms. Her name is Rimsha. She's the first girl in her family ever to get a university education. And the first time I met her was at our training institute. And she came and she shook my hand, and I didn't know who she was. I'd heard the story, I hadn't seen her. And she looked at me and she said, "Thank you for starting Teach for Pakistan. I want you to just know one thing. I waited 13 years to become a teacher with your program. And now I'm here." I can never get over those words. I waited 13 years to become a teacher, right? And that, I think, is such an incredible source of hope for me, because that's the kind of respect that I want for the teaching profession in my country as a whole, right? For people to wait 13 years to become a teacher, right? Yeah, yeah.
The hope question I had comes from me reading a little bit about how the first class kind of came to be, and that there was some belief that it would be tough to fill the slots, to try and get people to want to be teachers in such a tough environment. Can you talk about that process of how many people thought you might get, and then how many applied, and then what that looked like?
Yeah.
And celebrate somebody in the audience that might
Yeah,
also be doing it.
yeah. Thank you for setting me up for that. So beautifully done. You are really good at this. I think you might be the coolest dean I've ever seen of any school ever. It's just
This is about you. Sorry. Yes.
So this is back in 2010, and I was 26 years old. I knew really nothing about how to run an organization. But I was only 4 years older than the people who were then graduating from university, who I was trying to recruit into the program. So I didn't have this kind of like fancy profile where I'm really wise and people should listen to me. Why would young people listen to me? But I think I had always had the conviction that if I want to do something like this, if I'd always wished that a Teach for Pakistan program had existed when I was graduating college. And so my conviction was there are other people like me who are just as committed to this country, to its kids, to shedding their privilege, to learning more, but while doing, to doing the hardest thing that they can possibly do in service of a really ambitious and really good goal. And so that's how I kind of we went out on campus and started talking to young people. And we got laughed out of a lot of like faculty offices and corporate offices when I was asking for support. People said to me, nobody in Pakistan is going to spend 4 years in a university on a university education, particularly from a prestigious school like LUMS, and then come and teach in a public school. This is not going to happen. This is a pipe dream. And so the first cohort, it had to take some crazy people to want to do this, right? Because the program didn't have any brand reputation, any of those things yet. And so we opened up 40 slots in the first cohort. And in the first 3 months, we got 660 applications from all over Pakistan to do this. But even then, we were so selective that only 20 people actually made it into the program. So we didn't fill all the 40 spots. And one of those 20 first crazy people is with me here today. Her name is Tuba Akhtar. She is, thank you very much. So Tuba, and I apologize for putting you on the spot, but Tuba was headed for like a corporate career. She had like job offers from Unilever and P&G and whatnot. And I met her on campus, and then I took her interview. And at the end of the interview, I said to her, if we give you a job offer, you better follow through on all the promises you made to me in that interview. Because you've made some tall claims about how you care about the kids of this country. And she took that to heart. And since then, she's worked as the head of recruitment, as the head of training. She now heads up all of our program work at Teach for Pakistan, and is a role model for the many, many people, for like the 599 other people who've come into this work since she did it. Yeah.
I told Tuba she's an OG. You're an OG. Really nice. Can you talk about some of the most critical policy reforms that you see are important for improving the education outcomes and kind of reduce inequities and inequalities in Pakistan? Like, what are some of the priorities that really need to be addressed on the policy front?
Yeah. So there are lots of problems. I think there's a couple of levels of problems on the policy front. One are the more obvious ones. We need to fix a lot of what is happening around teacher management and teacher governance, everything from teacher recruitment to training, coaching, evaluation, promotions, etc. That's tied to curriculum, that's tied to evaluation, that's tied to school management, etc. So this is stuff at the kind of visible level, right? I see this as the tip of the iceberg that you can actually see. But I've come to realize that underneath that tip of the iceberg, the big piece that you actually don't talk about as often are deeper, more underlying issues. The one big one there is that we don't have ways to bring in, cultivate, retain the sheer human talent that it is going to take to run our systems, to deliver education for the scale that we're talking about. In Pakistan, we often talk about the 26 million kids who are out of school, but there's also 55 million who are in school and they're not learning, because the massive education workforce that we have in Pakistan, and the biggest workforce we have in Pakistan is the education workforce. We don't have the ways, to try and get that human talent and then help them deliver to the best of their capabilities. So that I see as a big problem with governance and policy. And I think that comes from the other underlying issue, which is that policy reform, I think, has to be tied to a big vision for what are you trying to achieve over the next, not 3 years or 5 years, which is how most planning, I think, is done in Pakistan. We think in terms of, the political party in power only has a 5-year mandate, or the civil servant who's currently in that particular role may be removed in 6 months. So everything is looked at in very short-term ways, right? But so I think the other big underlying problem is that policy has to not just be about what do we want to accomplish in the next 3 years, because the kind of problems that we're trying to address are huge generational issues. So we have to be asking the question, where do we want Pakistan to be in the next 50 years? And therefore, where do we need our education system to be in the next decade, in the next 2? Right?
that kind of strategic foresight, that thinking about the future and then kind of thinking about how do we get there is critical. So you've built an organization that's really at the intersection of education, leadership, and social justice. What have been some of the biggest policy or governance challenges that you faced locally and maybe nationally? Are there distinctions? I mean, these are big issues about training the workforce and making sure teachers have constant training to improve and learn new standards and learn the new science that's happening all over the world. But how do the issues vary from local to national?
Yeah, and it's a great question because so Pakistan education is a provincial subject, and we've got 8 different kind of provinces, if you call them. So we're talking about 8 different education systems, and it's a very diverse country, culturally, linguistically, ethnically, and so I think one of the big struggles that we see in Pakistan is that we need greater devolution and more devolving the authorities and controls and really leadership of education management as local as we possibly can get it. And right now, I think that there is a lot of power and authority vested at the provincial levels and then at the kind of federal level, but not enough at the district level where a lot more kind of authority needs to rest. So for instance, it's as simple as a school head doesn't have the power to hire the teachers that they need, right? So they will have teacher shortages that will go open for many years because they don't have the power to just hire the teacher that they need. They have no say in who becomes the teacher in that school. They have very little power over the amount of budget that they get and how they spend it, right? And so those are like really real, I think, issues. So I completely agree. I think that it's a wide array of issues, and it does vary from the national to the provincial.
Is that system designed nationally, or does the province decide how each system works? In other words, if there's a district that has schools in it, which one is a creature? Is the district a creature of the province and therefore following the rules there, or there's leaders can't hire their own teachers and probably can't district and select their students? Is this an organizational problem, a system problem, a historical problem, or a real policy problem that if you just do this, then it will change, like a clock problem versus a cloud problem?
So I think part of the problem is that the power being devolved from the national to the provincial is a fairly recent thing that happened according to a constitutional amendment maybe about 10 years ago. And while the powers were devolved, there wasn't enough emphasis on developing the capacity of the departments of education that are actually going to run things, right? And Pakistan is we have a very rapidly growing population. So the number of students that our school systems have to serve, they just get more and more and more very fast. And therefore, the number of schools that have to be up and running and doing well, grows very fast. So I think, to my mind, the greatest problem that we face in Pakistan, that I've seen at a policy level, is 2 things. One is that I think that there has over time it's almost like we've given up on the idea that reform is possible. So people sitting inside government and people sitting outside government, it's almost like we've accepted that status quo is what we've got, and the system is not capable of change. And so my greatest challenge in this entire work has been to try and create proof points and then do tons of advocacy and relationship building to try and get people to see where the hope lies, right? Because we're not going to be able to solve these problems if we're just all going to, treat these as routine matters that, nobody really has any control over. So
that's a good point. So we have a lot of students that are interested in building their own organizations and kind of following your lead. What advice do you have for students or our alumni who are thinking about founding their own organizations and entering into the education policy space, especially when education is going through so many challenges with reduced funding, political constraints, different perspectives on how one should learn? What advice might you have for those who are seeking to be entrepreneurial in this area?
Yeah. So I was telling my classmates a little while ago that if I had known what I know now, I probably wouldn't have done this. And so naivety is your friend, and that's why only kids and young people are going to change the world, in my opinion, right? So
So have more children or something. We need
Fine.
a lot of help here, yeah.
I was going to say find your inner child and nurture your inner child.
That's better, yeah. Find your inner child, please, yeah.
I, especially not in Pakistan, I don't say that to anybody. Don't like we need to really think about how many more kids we want to have. So,
A lot of problems, yeah.
but I think my big two pieces of advice I would have. One is it's much harder than you think it is. No matter how realistic you think you're being right now in your estimations, it is much harder than you think it is, and therefore, dig really deep to tap into why does this matter to you, because otherwise you're not going to be able to stay the course and go the distance. I when I went back from with my degree in 2010, I thought I'm going to go and start Teach for Pakistan, and it'll take a couple of years, and then I'll go do something else with my life. And yeah, it's 15 years on, right? And I'm still learning. I still don't feel like I know how to do this like fully. I know some pieces of it, but there's new challenges every day, and I'm still interested and intrigued by those challenges.
You're making good progress,
So,
though.
thank you, appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that would just be my one big piece of advice is really think about why this matters to you. And the other one, the second piece of advice I would say is sometimes we forget when we're thinking about founding an organization, we want to get our theory of change right. We want to make our log frames. But to my mind, the thing that has taught me the most is being and remaining very, very closely involved with what is happening at the very grassroots of my program. Like what's happening in classrooms with kids, what's happening with my teachers in their training, what's happening with my staff, my team. What is the fabric of my organization look and feel like? Because that I think is what determines success. So yeah.
I'm going to ask you one question, and you don't have to answer this. You can tell me you'd rather not. But we, in our country and other countries around the world, experience a lot of threats and violence. And I can imagine that really pushing for this in Pakistan might sometimes bring threats. And are there times where you fear for your safety in trying to lead this issue, especially around issues of gender inequality and equity in the country? Are there ways that you manage that fear if it does come about sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, I'd be lying if I said there haven't been those moments. There certainly have. Especially when you. So I think Teach for Pakistan, what we've tried to do with it is make it a big enough tent that we can have people who come and do this work, who are the future leaders of this country. I want to see the diversity that I would like to see in 20 years running my country's systems, right? So it's very different people from all kinds of backgrounds. And I think the real challenge for this community is how do you work across lines of difference? How do you work together? And those lines of difference can be gender, ethnicity, religion, class, and so on and so forth. And so I think you get a very wide range of opinions, and we get many people who are very outspoken. Of course, you get people who are outspoken, you get people who believe in things very deeply and who have their convictions, and therefore they will kind of go out there in the world and make waves happen, right? So from small things like when one of our teachers enters a school and they see a culture of corporal punishment in that school, and they see kids being hit. We've had a case where a teacher's gone on social media and just tweeted out how angry she was, right? And I've had to then call her into my office. We had to sit down. We had to really talk through. Hey, is that the best way to deal with this, right? Like you're putting it on Twitter, and the other route though can be let's go to the government. Let's make a real case of this. And as we worked together through that particular case, we ended up with a very successful outcome. We ended up getting that particular teacher fired which was a very big thing in the government system, right? Because that doesn't happen. And so those kind of risks, I think, our people continue to take. And it's a hard balance because you don't want to stop them from taking those risks, right? That's what creates change makers, is people who can take risks. Um, so, but I think the other side of this is that when push comes to shove and when we get opposition from outside, the Teach for Pakistan community in and of itself is, and it's not just our fellows and our alumni, the people who are doing the teaching, or our staff, it's our kids and it's their parents. Those are the people who kind of stand up in our defense, and they become like the kind of front line that protects us, right? And that I've also experienced, which is what I think makes the risks worthwhile.
That's an interesting point that, one way to combat fear and threats is to get other people to believe in your vision and your idea, inspire people, and not just fight against them and against issues. So that's inspirational. So here's one. What were your favorite classes or moments from your time at GSPP? Thank you.
So now I work in the space of trying to cultivate leadership to change systems, for a country of like 250 million people. And the class that I enjoyed the least at GSPP, that I took the least seriously, was my leadership course, which was taught by an incredible professor. So it was all me, it was not him. And I remember we had to
clean up.
we had to we had to present, make a presentation about a leader that had inspired us. And my approach to that presentation was I dug deep through like movies and films that I'd watched, and my idea of leadership was encapsulated at the time by Mufasa from The Lion King. And if you can believe it, I made that presentation. Nearly got kicked out of that class.
Mufasa, yeah.
Yeah.
Got
So
theme music, everything. I mean, we should find this professor. Talk to about their creativity.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite moments. But can I just mention one other one? Is like one of my classmates, Diva Patel, is a person who handed me the founder of Teach for America, Wendy Kopp. She handed me her first book, and she said, "You care about this idea? Read this." She had done the Teach for America program. I'll never forget that moment. That put me on the path that I am today. There's many other moments like that. Yeah.
Another question from the audience: What did you do during the pandemic? What if online classes weren't an option for some students? How did you manage during that time period?
Yeah, as I think the pandemic it is such a big tragedy, but to my mind, it is the moment that really forced us to dig deep and think about what does inequity really look like, because it revealed yet another dimension of inequity, right? And even in a country like Pakistan, all the elite private schools in our country, within days of the pandemic starting, March 20th is when schools shut down in Pakistan. And within days, those schools were online and those kids were learning. And our kids, of course, were not. And because there was like 30% smartphone penetration, and even less, of course, access to laptops or computers, and then internet. And so during the pandemic, our team, led by our very capable alumni of the program, and then our teachers, they came together to decide that they would put up the first distance learning effort that was happening anywhere in Pakistan. So this was the first group of educators who worked with kids from underprivileged backgrounds to start to innovate, and they came up with many different ideas of how to get their kids worksheets, how to get their kids food, supplies, ration, how to get them emotional well-being resources. And then they transitioned from that to, like, one of our fellows launched the first ever WhatsApp school in Pakistan, and then many other educators around the country followed suit. We launched we created the first ever back to school safe school reopening policy. We provided that to the federal government. We helped them put up the education channel that then was delivering education to the entire country. It was called Teleschool. And so we helped them design the curriculum for that. So to me, I remember that as a time of that asked for great leadership and that asked for great resilience. And it was a very special time, I think, within Teach for Pakistan, because we kind of came together, we rallied to prove to ourselves, you know, that we can create solutions where it seems like there are none, you know, where we don't even yet understand the problem. But when a group of people comes together, you know, you said in the beginning, no one person can do it alone. I think to me, I will always remember that as a time when I really saw the power of the collective.
Pressure created innovation and creativity.
Yeah.
And they had a problem with Mufasa. I can't let it go. Not yet.
I'm never going to live this down. I can't believe I said this with the camera rolling. Yeah.
Here's another one. How has your vision evolved as the organization has grown and encountered real-world complexities?
Yeah. When I went back, I thought that this program was going to be about teachers in the classroom. And it still very much is about teachers in the classroom. But very quickly, I realized that even if you put a great Teach for Pakistan teacher in every single classroom across Pakistan, you still would not solve for educational inequity. And so I think the big evolution of this vision is really going from, yeah, what is the experience that these incredible people who do the teaching have in the 2 years, and what do their kids learn out of that? But then how are we setting them up for lifelong leadership? So our 352 alumni who have completed the full 2 years have gone. We did a study just earlier this year, came out in January, and we realized they had gone on to impact 1.8 million kids across Pakistan. And in terms of informing, like particularly policy around teacher recruitment, curriculum, teacher coaching, teacher development, they're doing that all across the country, right? And if that's 352 alumni, you know, I look forward to what is it going to look like when we have 1,000 of them, right? Yeah. So I think that's the big way in which my vision has evolved. Is I actually feel even more compelled that system change is not just important, but it is actually doable. It is within our reach, you know.
This one is kind of connected to an earlier question. What aspects of Teach for Pakistan do you think should stay hyper-local, and which parts are scalable across regions? And you kind of mentioned some of this and some of the solutions in responses to the pandemic, but anything in particular that should stay hyper-local? Are there big talent differences across the provinces that would, this is just another interesting part about, you know, how can there be something that's standardized across all of them that you can see that's impactful?
I think that some of the ways in which you do things should be standardized. So when I think about Teach for Pakistan's scale, the thing that I think that I would like to keep intact across all provinces is our core values, for instance. I would like for us to have a program that, as it grows across the entire country, it retains its DNA. And what are those core values? There is a dogged pursuit of excellence. There is deep commitment to inclusion. There is a centering yourself within these systems of inequity rather than looking at yourself as being outside of them and acting upon these unjust systems. And so that, I think, is a thing that you have to retain, is how do we do the work? And I think the thing that should be very local is two things. One is the vision for what an excellent education looks like for a child. I think that should be locally informed. There are some things that, of course, you know, should be part of like core curriculum standards, right? The stuff that every kid should know how to do, sure. But across our provinces, and then even within our provinces, Pakistan is an incredible country which has which is incredibly rich in the kinds of opportunities that it provides people for livelihood, right, across the length and breadth of our country, right? There's lots of diversity. And so for particularly, let's say, for instance, for rural parts of Pakistan, I would like to see deployed an education that values what happens in rural communities, right? And that gives people a chance, kids in that community, as they're growing up, pride in their land, pride in belonging to that land, pride in innovating in practices that are important in that land, right? Being connected to careers, for instance, agricultural careers, which, right now, I think one of the risks that we have is that we are trying to over standardize that all kids should learn exactly the same thing and should envision exactly the same future for themselves, right? So to my mind, I think one of the things that's very important is to be able to localize, like, our vision for excellence for the child. The second thing I think that's very important to localize is the people who do the work itself. So I dream about a Teach for Pakistan program in Balochistan, which is one of the provinces in Pakistan that has had the greatest amount of challenge. It is also one of the most beautiful, most resilient provinces and people in the country. And when we start a program in Balochistan, it should be run by people who are from Balochistan, right? Khadija Bakhtiar has no business dictating what should be happening in that program, right? And so that's what's really important to me. I think two things that feel like they should be very local is vision and people.
Last one. What has surprised or delighted you as you've been on this journey for Teach for Pakistan? One big surprise. One thing you didn't expect. Aside from it going so well.
I didn't expect to be this inspired for this long. I didn't know that inspiration is something that you actually have to try and cultivate. Like, one of the things that I say to my teachers and my alumni and my team is that it's a moral obligation. That's what, to be able to go out and find ways to remain hopeful. It's a moral obligation for those of us who claim to be in this work of changing the world, right? Changing society. But I don't think that I expected to be able to stay inspired for as long as I have. So that's the thing that's really inspired me, I think.
Very good. Give Khadija a round of applause, please. I'd like to say that we're done, but now we have one of the most important parts of the conversation. It's what we call the lightning round.
I feel like such a celebrity, by the way.
Well, wait till you get done with these questions, and we'll see how you feel. All right, this is gonna go quickly. This is not take your time and think about answers. This is just kind of say what comes first.
I'm readying myself.
Readying yourself. All right.
Okay, let's do this.
All right. Let's do this. All right. Let's start Teach for America. Yeah, let's do this. All right. So here's an easy one. What's your desired change maker superpower?
Sorry, say that again.
So you're a change maker.
I promise I'm not stalling.
No, well, I don't believe you. You're a change maker. What's your superpower? The one you want.
The one I want.
You can have anyone in any kind of, use your imagination. Like Mufasa can jump and run really fast.
Yeah.
Like, what's your superpower? Like seeing through budgets or something like that.
Oh my God.
Lightning.
My superpower would be to be able to speak any language with the person in the room that I'm talking to, right? Any language.
Good. That's a good one. That's a good one. All right. Here's another easy one. Movie or documentary that inspires you?
Oh my God. Besides The Lion King.
I wasn't going to say it. I'm glad you did.
There's what's the one with the teacher one that we showed you? Freedom Riders.
Freedom Riders.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. All right. This is getting more complicated. Someone will make a movie about you and your cause. Who should play you in the movie?
Me. I should play me in the movie.
We're going to find a professor who didn't go with Mufasa because this is, I don't know who would give you an unhappy grade. All right. You're a bartender or a barista and you have a signature drink. What's in it and what do you call it?
So hard. I feel like they made the espresso martini. Otherwise, I would have wanted to like that. I would have wanted to be the one who created that. Like, I think that's perfect. It's just perfect drink.
You're going to put your name on that? The martini?
Yeah, I wish I could go back and claim credit for
The
that.
Khadija.
The Khadija. Yeah. Okay. It would be called KSB and just because and it would have like 5 shots of espresso because KSB has to keep going. Right.
I like what you're doing. I like this.
Yeah, and then it would be very, very sweet. Very sweet.
You had me. I mean, I was on your team. Mufasa, the whole thing. Martini sweet. No. All right. Well, I guess they have those. All right. What activity makes you lose track of time?
Making a PowerPoint deck.
You're actually pretty good at this. I gotta make these harder. Here's one. You win a Nobel Prize. Who introduces you? You can't say you because you won it.
I was going to say you, if I can hope for that. You're very good. That was the best introduction I've ever gotten.
I'll go to Norway. I'll do the trip. Yeah. All right. What was the last thing you honestly put 100% into? Don't say this interview, please. Give something else.
The last thing I put 100% into. Yeah, so in the summer, we have our 6-week kind of induction training for the new batch of fellows that's hired every year. And so the last thing I put 100% of myself into were the leadership sessions that I designed for them. And I do that every year. I rework them every year. I've been doing it for so many years now, but I rework them every single year.
How'd it
and
go?
They take 100% of my heart every year.
How did it go?
I think they went well. Yeah. My barometer for that is like how much do people cry? And there were a lot of tears. So that told me that there's like the right amount of like stuff that needs to break was breaking and stuff that needs to build was building, So
Start crying. Thank you. All right. Well done.
Thank you.
The Mufasa professor. I'm not going to be that guy. I want to thank you again, Khadija, for spending time with us. You're doing outstanding work. We're really proud to have you as alumni. Thank you. My pleasure.
Can I say one last thing?
Yeah, say one last thing.
I just wanted to say, I think there's not a lot of places in the world. I'm now getting emotional. But there's not a lot of places in the world that would give a 26-year-old who had like 1 year of work experience before that, who would let this person believe in the ridiculous idea that she can run an organization. And this place did. And it was the people in my class, my faculty. This is an amazing place. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for joining us. We hope to see you all tomorrow. Happy conference.